Well, no, it's fine. I know what you look like. How's your head been lately?
It's not too bad, thank goodness.
Oh, good.
Yeah.
Good.
Yes.
You've had the right old do with those, haven't you?
Yeah. And last week it was on Wednesday. No, Tuesday I had a cracker, but by Wednesday I was not too bad, so that's good.
Yeah. Oh, well, as long as they're not lasting so long. They're so debilitating, aren't they?
They are, yeah. I'll turn you up a bit.
I feel like I'm a bit bright at the moment. Simon's rigged up this new light for me, which has made it beautifully light in here, but I do feel a bit under a spotlight, if you know what I mean. I might try and turn the big light off and see if it makes much difference, because we are meant to be winding down rather than winding up. Let's just see what it looks like if I turn it off. Is that all right?
Yep.
Yeah, that's fine.
Good stuff. Well, we'll go with that then. We'll go with that. Hello, Tracy. Don't know if Tracy's tuned in yet or she can't hear me. Good.
Hello.
Hello, you all right?
Yeah, are you?
Yeah, good, thank you. Hey, good news. I'm coming home on the 31st of March.
Oh, great. Oh, good.
Yeah, so as soon as we're back in and we've got quarantine out of the way and we know what we can do with groups, the first thing I'm going to do is sign up a new retreat day.
Oh, great. I look forward to it.
Yeah, me too. Me too.
Will you still do them like this on Zoom? Classes.
Yes and no. If we can't meet in public, I've no idea what's going on at the rowing club, so I can't promise that we'll be back there like we used to be. It depends what's going on. Lots has changed in the committee there. So probably in the first instance, I might do some teaching in the park as and when weather allows. But, you know, I'll be looking for a venue. I think we'll do it, you know, one step at a time, see what happens as things start to open up. It's difficult to know, really, isn't it?
But this evening one's nice because we can get ready for bed and do it.
Yeah, I like this one too. Yeah, it's a good one. So I'll probably keep a mix. There'll be a transition between, you know, where we're at and where we're going, if you know what I mean. But yeah, that's the plan.
It'd be nice to have a mix of them. So it's nice doing this one at home in the evening.
Yeah, I like this one too. I always sleep quite well after it, even though, you know, I'm keeping the space for you lot. It calms me right down. But this is my second class of the evening. I had to deliver a workshop to the Harper Trust 2 hours ago. And some of the people had done yoga and some of the people had never done yoga. And I only had 45 minutes, which was the most difficult thing, keeping it. I felt like we kind of like thundered through everything. And I said, I'm sorry, this is not how yoga usually is. But they assured me it didn't feel rushed. But for me, it felt very rushed because we did some sitting down, some laying down, some sitting up, one standing. And then it was bye. And so it felt over before I really got going with it. But
it's hard when you do something different to what you're used to, isn't it? You have to squash it all down. It doesn't feel right.
Well, it's nice when time's a little bit more elastic, where you know you can kind of, you know, spend some time on it or get a feeling that that's where the energy's going. You know, you can just tell that, especially in a real live class. But yeah, I don't like being rushed. You know, to be able to only do maybe 3 seated postures, a couple of standing ones, and then a couple laying down while you're trying to explain, you know, the benefits of all these things and what you should be feeling and all the rest of it. I'm trying to think about it from someone who'd never ever done yoga before. If it seemed a bit of a mishmash, but you know, it was what it was. So there you go.
I'm sure they loved it.
Well, they said they did. In fact, the lady that had organised it said, right, if we can all unmute and give Gabby a round of applause. I'm like, no, we don't do clapping in yoga. You can can all bow to me instead. It just seemed weird with everyone sitting there politely clapping. It made me feel very uncomfortable. Hooray, Louise Partridge has just joined. Hello, Louise. Hello, James. Lovely to see you. It's lovely to see you all. Thank you for continuing to support me in my teaching. I'm sure you all know, but anything, hi Lissy, anything that I earn from my teaching, I reinvest into my learning so that I can teach more, if that makes sense. So I try and kind of mix it up all the time and think of new ways to deliver old things. So I hope that comes across at times, that we're doing the same sort of stuff but with a slightly different slant. So that's where I'm hoping it will go. We need bolsters tonight, people. I don't think we need a strap or anything. A cushion, nice comfy cushion if you want to sit on one, and a blanket, just in case you didn't get the memo that I didn't send. You know roughly what we're going to use, but that's what we're going to do.
There's a bolster involved, they're fine.
Yeah, always have a bolster handy or a couple of pillows or something. And I've managed to lock my dogs out of the yoga studio tonight, which is nice. So we haven't got them breathing down my neck. Hello, James. I don't know if you can hear me or not. Who else have we got joining? Right, we will be starting in about half a minute. So if I can ask you to mute yourselves, that would be fab. Okay. Right, so let's start tonight in a comfortable seated position. So either on your bolster or on your cushion or on your block, whatever a comfortable seat means for you. So your shape doesn't have to look like mine. I'm very used to sitting like this, and I'm aware that lots of you aren't. If you want to straddle your bolster, sometimes that's quite comfy, sitting with your knees either side. Like so, that can be quite nice. Your choice entirely. We want a comfortable seat where we can bring our attention to our spine and the uprightness of it, if that's a word. So perching on the very edge of your block or whatever you're sitting on, and just bring a little bit of awareness and intention to the space between your crown and your tailbone. Let's just take a moment to turn the attention inwards and tune in to what's going on. Maybe just lowering the gaze, shutting the eyes, whatever feels best for you right now. If you've got your lights dimmed, that's lovely, do that. Letting your hands just gently rest wherever you've put them. And let's just bring some awareness to the here and now and the position that we're in. So, unfurrowing the brow, letting the eyes relax and be soft, letting the teeth softly part. Don't want any clenching jaws here. We carry a lot of tension in our jaw without realizing it. Just tucking the chin slightly to bring a little extra length to the cervical spine. Let the shoulders be really heavy. Get the feeling that gravity is assisting and just bringing a sense of heaviness to both shoulders. And thinking about the rib cage, thinking about if there's a possibility of achieving a few more millimeters of space between the bottom of the ribs and the hips, just by adjusting your posture slightly. And then thinking about your sitting bones being supported by whatever's beneath you. Thinking about the heaviness of the thigh bones. and the knees, and the shins, ankles, feet, toes, soles of the feet, calves, and coming into the hands, the fingertips, very softly resting wherever they are, gently curled if they're upturned, not gripping or hanging onto your knees, or just let them be really soft. And now that we're starting to slow everything down, let's just bring our attention to our breath. Just observing the breath at the moment, noticing how your breath feels right now. How do you find your breath? No need to change anything, just be the observer. Perhaps you've been dashing about all day, or perhaps you've had a last minute rush to get on your yoga mat and you're just starting to slow everything right down. So it's good to notice where you breathe when you've been in a hurry. Let's bring a real conscious awareness now to the breath in the belly. Although we obviously don't breathe into our belly, the movement of the diaphragm. As we inhale, the lungs fill, the diaphragm moves down and pushes the belly out. So just bringing our awareness to the belly at the moment. Watching and feeling the rise and fall. Checking in once more, making sure that the shoulders are getting heavier. You're getting a sense of peace or calm settling upon you. Taking the breath, taking the awareness back to the breath. If ever your mind starts to wander and starts to get into doing mode, gently just bring it back to the breath. Bring it back to being mode. Let's shift our awareness now to the side body and the ribs. Thinking about the movement of the ribs to the side body. Movement of the muscles between the ribs. Should I ask everyone just to ensure that they're on mute? I can hear some noise somewhere. Unfortunately, I forgot to switch my mute all button on. So just keeping the awareness with the ribs, imagining the intercostal muscles just gently expanding and contracting with every breath. Let those shoulders weigh heavy. And let's move the awareness up to the collarbone region and think about our clavicular breathing. So the very tops of the lungs are nestled just below the collarbones here. If we deepen our breath just a small amount, you might be able to become aware of when the neck muscles engage and the very tops of the lungs fill. It's something we're not really used to doing, so it might take a bit of practice, this one. Let's just start to tune into the idea of the journey of the breath. So as it enters the nostrils, cool, works its way down, we feel it in the belly and then the side body, and then right in the top of the chest. And then watching it all reverse as the breath leaves the top of the chest, then the side body, and then the belly. Maybe you'll notice warm air on your top lip, maybe not. So sitting with this awareness of the breath just for a few moments longer. For those of you who are used to working with Ujjayi breath, we've done this a few times before. Imagine that you're fogging a mirror by that kind of huffing sensation, but close your mouth and do it. This is Ujjayi breath. It helps us retain the energy that we're cultivating in our yoga practice, and it gives us something else to think about. So you don't need to sound like Darth Vader, you can do it quite quietly, but basically what we're doing is constricting the back of our throat and just taking full control of where our breath is going and what it's doing. So if you have Ujjayi breath in your practice, you might want to sit with that for a few breaths. Otherwise, just sitting and maybe counting the inhales for the next few cycles of breath. When you've completed 4 inhales, let's count 4 exhales. So here what we're doing, we're not really controlling the breath, we're just observing, and we're keeping the mind busy. We're tasking it with something specific rather than letting it go off on its random excursions. So when you've completed your 4 counted exhales, gently let your eyes open and bring your attention and awareness back to your posture again. Have a bit of a fidget if you need to. And sitting, if you're able to sit in cross legs, if you aren't already doing so, that would be good. If cross leg is not available to you, then take your legs out straight. That's absolutely fine, one of the two. If you're on something, you might want to pop yourself off, whatever it is, so that we're flat on the floor. So sitting cross-legged or with legs out straight, find your posture once more. And keeping the upright nature of your posture, let's just creep the hands forward a little bit. So we're just closing the gap between the hip and the thigh. So we're not rounding into this with our shoulders. Shoulders stay nice and upright. And we're keeping that length from our tail to our crown. And just taking a moment here to notice what's happened in our legs or our hips. Just breathing with the sensations that are present. So we haven't gone as far as we possibly can. We're just venturing into this at the moment and noticing when and where we meet tension. Keep that Ujjayi breath going if you've got it going. And on the next exhale, let's just take it forward a couple more centimetres, or even a centimetre will do. Keeping that length in your spine. So we're active in the fingertips. We're kind of actively pushing away into the fingertips, if you like. So we're strong in the shoulders. And you're probably very aware of what's going on in your hips now. I want you to challenge where your edge is, but stay this side of it. You know, this is a restorative practice. We're just nudging where we're at tonight, just to have a little bit of a stretch out. One more inhale, a big exhale, and let's take it to where we're going. And this time, just let your head softly come down until your ears are sort of level with your biceps. Just take a moment here, relaxing into this forward fold, wherever you're at. If that last stretch was a stretch too far, just come back a notch. Really take a couple of deep breaths here, noticing if you suddenly get any changes in your spine. You might suddenly feel that something releases, or you might get some clicking. Just noticing how you feel, and then very slowly let's bring the fingertips back in towards the body. And just take a moment here, sitting upright. Let's take our right hand to our left knee. Left hand comes behind our bums, sit up really tall. Use that hand to help you be taller. Peel the left shoulder back, and then we'll have a look over that left shoulder. So nice and gently, don't crank yourself around. It's all very gentle. Just feeling the twist in the side body here. Head and neck come back to center and release. Now let's take the left hand to the right knee. Right hand comes behind the bum. Lift and lengthen, really find your lift here. Draw that right shoulder blade back and then look over the right shoulder, noticing what differences there are between the two sides. Usually there's a difference, even if it's only subtle. And head and neck come back to center and unwind. Right, we're going to swap legs now, which, unless you're sitting with your legs out in front of you, in which case you're going to have to do the whole boring thing again. But if you've got legs crossed like me, we need to swap over to the least favourite leg. Time to give the least favourite leg a little bit of love. This will feel all wrong like this, but never mind, we've got to give it a go. So finding your posture once more, sitting nice and tall. And let's just bring those fingertips forward a little way until we feel the engagement in the hip. You'll perhaps find that you can't go quite as far forward on this side. You clearly chose your favourite side to start, because we always do. So already you might have met some tension in this hip of the leg that's forward. So just breathing into it, doing the Ujjayi breath if you can. Ujjayi breath means victorious breath, and it also means sound of the ocean, which is quite nice. So breathing in deeply, and on the exhale, let's see if we can creep the fingertips forward a couple of centimetres without losing any integrity in the length of the spine. So really active in the fingertips. Imagine you're trying to push the floor away that's in front of you. Noticing what's happening in your sitting bones here, whether you've got both legs out straight or whether you've got them crossed. You might feel that this is far enough on this side, in which case just hang out here. If not, let's just take it 2 more centimetres or 1 more centimetre or half a centimetre. Set ourselves up here, feel the joy in that hip, and then let's yield to it and bring our head down, tucking the ears between the biceps, and almost rounding into the back here. Just noticing how the stretch feels quite different when we've rounded into it. Observe the breath. Make sure you're not holding your breath. If you're holding your breath, you're probably doing a stretch too much. Come back a bit. And then slowly let's walk the hands in towards the body. And let's everybody stretch the legs out and give them a bit of a pat. Release the hamstrings at the back. See how you're feeling after that. And bring your hands by the side of your hips. Let's be active in the feet here. Let me spin round so you can see what I'm doing. So my feet are peeled towards my face, and I've got an active engagement in my hamstrings. My arms aren't particularly long, so I find it quite difficult to raise myself up here, but have enough intention in your hands that you could push yourself off the mat here. That and my bum's too big as well, I think, but I've got short arms, that's my excuse. So just sitting with active legs here, nice and tall in the spine. And then releasing a little of the tension in the legs. Let's just bring the arms up. Imagine you're holding something between your two hands, perhaps a big beach ball or something. And once again, really bring awareness to your spine. Imagine that you're sticking your bum out here, so it's impossible to do, but get that visualization, that's what you're trying to do. And once again, we're just starting to close the gap between body and thigh. So we're just hinging forward at the hips here until we really feel the hamstrings engage. You should be in no doubt here that that's what's just turned on. We're going to connect with the breath here, really try and let those shoulders release down the back. Make sure you're not holding them up around your ears, just reaching. We're trying to reach beyond the toes. Imagine that's what you're trying to do. Nice big inhale, and on the next exhale, let's see if we can go a little bit further. So we're not rounding down, we're trying to get further forward. We're trying to take our nose and our fingertips beyond our toes here. It doesn't matter what your shape looks like. If you're here, that's absolutely fine. And just taking a moment here. And the next time you take a big inhale, when you exhale, let's do what your body wants to do, which is round into it. So taking the hands either to the knees or the shins or the ankles, or if you've got very long hamstrings, if you're a child of mine, you can do this. You've got long hamstrings. You can take your hands to the soles of your feet. But it doesn't matter where you are, we're still getting a good old stretch in the hamstrings. So take your awareness to your hip bones that you've sent behind you. And maybe just kind of folding down as if we were trying to get our nose on our knees. Maybe some of you can do that. Doesn't matter if you can't, that's the visualization. And again, find your breath. Sometimes it's more difficult when we're crunched up into positions like this, but we're tuning into the sensations that are present. What does it feel like when our hamstrings and glutes are really engaged here? What happens with our breath? What we're actually doing is tuning into the parasympathetic nervous system that by now has realized that we're not under any threat. So it should allow a relaxing and releasing of the muscles here. With every exhale, just let there be a bit of heaviness with where you are. See if you sink any lower. If this is just torturous for you, then don't sit like it. This isn't an endurance session. Just be sensible about what you're feeling. This is about you learning about you, what's happening in your body, according to what's happened in your day today. That will affect what's happening in your body. So just be realistic about what you can not even hope to achieve tonight. We're not trying to achieve anything other than a good night's sleep. We're just stretching everything out. Places where we know we can hold tension, we're just trying to let go. Last inhale and exhale, see if you've got any further release here. If you have, maybe you can rest your forearms on the mat. Maybe you're resting on your legs. Maybe you're still sitting up nearly upright. Whatever, just noticing where you're at. And preparing to come out of the pose now, very slowly and mindfully, sliding your hands back so they're beside your hips again. And using your hands to help you back up to upright. Just taking a moment here, let everything reset. Notice how you feel. Try and get some length between your tail and your crown. I've forgotten what we're doing next. I completely lost myself in that. I'm going to turn around to face you. Then bringing one foot up, either just, I'm going to say use your right foot, either inside your left thigh, or if you have it available to you tonight, cross your right leg over your left, and then sit up really tall. So sitting up really tall, right leg is crossed over left, or it's here. Either way, we're going to take the left elbow and hook it around the right knee. We're going to use that little bit of torsion there to pull ourselves upright. We're going to activate this left foot, so pulling the toes back towards the shin. Right hand comes behind the bum. And before you hurl your head and neck round, really peel that right shoulder back first, and then pull it round. So we want this twist to originate from the thoracic spine rather than the cervical. That's why we set ourselves up first, and the last thing to go is the head and neck. So you'll probably feel an engagement in both shoulders. Probably got some tension going on in your left bicep. The left hamstring is still lengthening. Tune in with your breath here, make sure you're breathing and that you haven't gone purple. And then slowly head and neck come center. And let's gently unwind, unravel. Take that leg out, give them both a pat. I'm actually getting quite warm here. And then we're going to go over to the other leg. So, taking your preferred position, either inside the thigh or crossed over. Really find your lift and length before we go anywhere. Now you'll notice if you're just sitting here passively that your outstretched leg will have a natural inclination to externally rotate. So let's bring a bit of activity to it. Let's dial it back round so that all the toes are facing towards the ceiling and that they're pulled back towards the shin. Then let's take the right elbow around the knee. Let's really, you might need to move your tummy out of the way or your boobs if they're in the way, just sitting up nice and tall. Left hand comes behind your bum. Really peel that left shoulder back, and then we can take the head and neck. So we've got a nice little twist going on in the thoracic spine, which is notoriously tight. We have a lot of, there's not a lot of movement in the thoracic spine. You know, it's not given to moving much, so we have to gently assist here. So tuning in with your breath, keeping that outstretched leg active. Make sure your jaw is nice and loose, that you're not grinding your teeth. And then slowly head and neck come center again. Really check in with your posture, be nice and tall. And then let's just unwind here. Give your legs a bit of a pat. And then we're going to come to all fours. Let me move my makeshift bolster out of the way. So just twisting round until you are on all fours here. So wrists are beneath shoulders, knees are beneath hips, as usual. And we're going to start, because this is quite heavy on the wrists, we're going to start with some wrist exercises. So first of all, get your fingers to face each other in the centre of the mat. And then centre your body weight over the top and really actively push the mat away here. And then start to sit back. Start to take your bum back towards your heels. You'll know when you have reached the bit we're stretching. So we're starting to stretch out the medial nerve in the wrists here. As soon as you feel tension, there's no need to take it any further than that. Just find the right side of your edge here. And breathe, looking at the space between the fingertips. And then slowly, slowly, slowly start to bring the body weight forward. And we're going to just go beyond the straight line of our arms here, so that we just feel it to the other side of the wrist. Maybe you can feel it in your lower back here. So we're not going too far. We're just challenging where we're holding our weight here. So really claw with the fingertips, making sure that you're putting as much energy into the fingertips as the heel of the hand and palm. And then come back to neutral. And now dial both hands so that the fingers face your knees. Okay, this feels a bit weird. Same sort of thing. So we've got our fingertips dialed in towards our legs, and we're gently going to just move our body weight back until you feel that glorious stretch into the wrist. So this is great if you play racket sports or if you use a mouse all day long or anything like that. It's really good just to help stop you getting repetitive stress injury. And then let's take the body weight forward. It's a little more difficult on this side. And then coming to relax. Just sit back on your heels now if you can, if it's comfortable. If not, just find you can kneel and just circle into the wrists here in one direction and then the other. And then coming to a neutral tabletop position. So we're looking at our spread hands and fingers like starfish, knees are beneath hips. We're just going to drop the belly and lift the chin. So we're taking our cow pose first. So really accentuate the natural arches of the spine here. Feel the front body muscles lengthening, especially either side of the navel. And then let's take the chin all the way into the chest as we really push the mat away here. Push the ground away from you. Dome through those shoulders. Create lots of space. Sucking the abdomen up and in. And then once more the other way. So starting to drop the belly. Sending the chin forward. Hips go back. Really feel the stretch in the front body there. Keep active in the arms. And then last time into angry cat position, so pushing the ground away, really active in those arms. Push actively into the shoulders. Press into the tops of the feet here as well. Let's involve the legs. Let's keep it all quite active. And then release and just push back into child's pose. If child's pose is not comfortable for you, maybe just coming forward onto your hands and knees like so. You can use your bolster here. But if child's pose is comfortable for you, then taking child's pose, reaching away actively with the fingertips, have a little claw, feel the engagement in your shoulders here, really activate the shoulders, and then slide the hands in until they come behind you to meet your feet. Let the shoulders really be taken by gravity here, let them open out, feel the heaviness. And once more, connect with the breath. Slowly, slowly, slowly starting to raise up out of child's pose or whichever posture you were in. Bringing the hands back to neutral position. Here, just tucking the toes for a minute. Try and get every toe engaged with the mat. And we're just going to walk the hands back and we're going to sit back here. Everybody's favourite. So we're just getting a good old stretch in the plantar fascia underneath the feet. Really have a good old wiggle there. I know it feels horrible if you're not used to doing this, but it's good for you, so do it. And now hands come back to the mat. And what we're going to do, we are going to hover here. So what I want you to do is just lift the knees, stick your bum as high as you can, so hips are high, and we're going to stay here for 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Lower, untuck the feet, and just stretch it back. I thought you'd like that. I bet Linda's shouting, aren't you, Linda? And slowly, with your arms outstretched, bringing the body weight forward, let's just bring the hips forward and do a little baby cobra here. So we're just seeing what it feels like. We're not hanging here. Let's take it back. We're going to take a couple of cycles of movement here. So we're just starting to stretch out the hip flexors. So we're very strong in the shoulders here. Our arms are holding the weight. Hips go back. Last time, let's come forward. If this is okay for you, let's just hang here for a moment. So making sure that it's your shoulders that are doing the work, but that your hips are allowed to open. Maybe widening your feet makes it a little more comfortable. If there's any pinching in the lower back, don't do it. And if you're reasonably comfortable here and feeling quite strong in the arms, let's take a look over the left shoulder. So just glancing round to look at the left heel, and then come centre, and let's take it over to the right. And come centre, and this time bring your toes together, take your knees wide, and let's take a really wide-legged child's pose. So once again, taking your options. If this is not a good pose for you, you can take puppy pose where you're on your knees and down on your forearms. If you can't tolerate child's pose with wide legs, then take this and let your arms be really passive here. Rest your forehead on the mat. Really feel the opening in the hips. Get the sense of releasing and letting go. And then slowly, slowly, slowly bringing the hands back up, walking the knees back in towards each other, tucking the toes and getting your bolster. Hooray, we get to use the bolster. So bringing the bolster in front of you, mine's coming on 12 now, it's lost its rigidity. I need to wrap it up again. So having your bolster across as if you were going to lay down on it like a pillow. We want to position this where it's going to meet the fleshy part of our middle. So not on our hip bones, not on our rib cage, but the bit in the middle. So you might need to faff about with it for a minute just to lay your belly on it. And just take a moment to get comfortable, untuck your toes, take a little wriggle from side to side till you feel comfortable, and then bring both elbows in to meet the edge of the bolster. So what we've got here is quite a nice supported version of Sphinx pose. So forearms are about shoulder width apart, fingertips are pointing towards the top of the mat. We're pressing down into the forearms and we've got a nice little back bend going on. If this is too intense for you, just lower down. You don't need to do so much work. We're just trying to see where we feel this pose. If you're using your forearms, make sure you have created lots of space in your shoulders. So make sure you've got your shoulders bunched up here. Try and get a sense of release. We're looking down between our thumbs. So we've got a nice, long, neutral cervical spine. And really press into the tops of the feet here. And then the tops of the thighs. And then the pubic bone. And this actually turns this quite passive movement into a fairly decent back bend because we've got our hips in extension here and we're not actually having to do a whole lot of work. So that's what it should feel like. If it feels like too much work, do what you need to do and just lower yourself down. Just check in with your breath here. Think about your belly breath while your belly's being supported by your bolster. You'll probably be acutely aware of what's going on. And see if you can just hang on to the breath at the top of the inhale and exhale for one notch longer than your inhale is. So really directing your mind to do your bidding at the moment rather than it doing its own thing. And now slowly and mindfully take both elbows out to the side of the mat and rest your head on your upturned palms. Let your legs be soft and passive and just enjoy laying here supported by your bolster. Let's take a few breaths here. Noticing how your lower back feels. Maybe taking a little roll from hip to hip if that feels nice, if it feels like it's easing it off. And then coming back onto our hands, this time we are going to bring our hands up. We're going to push ourselves up into a seated position. And you might want to play about with this, but what I'd like to do is get into a version of pigeon. Now, you might find it useful to have your leg that's bent on the bolster, or you might like it tucked underneath the gap. So if I can demonstrate how I would use this. So from all fours position, you're bringing your right knee to your right wrist, and then you're sliding your left leg away long, and then you would prop the bolster either underneath the right buttock to fill that gap there so that we can sit unsupported. We want to be able to be here without being cranked over on one side. Or you can have it in front and lay your leg across that. It depends how flexible you are in your hips. See what it feels like. Just have a little play with it. If this isn't available to you, maybe think about coming up into a lunge position instead, where we're just on one knee or both knees are at right angles, and we can do some work here by squeezing, having the feeling that we're squeezing both thighs together, just taking a moment here. So taking your version of pigeon pose, I am going to use the bolster to lay my leg on. So depending on how open you are in your hips, so hands are on the mat, the other side of the bolster, and really use your upper body strength just to keep you nice and upright. You'll still get a lovely stretch into your right hip here, especially if you do a lot of running, cycling, or sitting at a desk all day. All those things are eased out by us doing these lovely opening movements. And if you're in the kneeling lunge, just squeezing those thighs together. I will change to that now. So everyone who is in pigeon, just holding that. If you want to release to your forearms, you can do. If we're in the lunge here, maybe we want to take our arms up, have a little back bend here, looking up at the thumbs. And if you're in pigeon, just slowly starting to ease your way out of pigeon now until you're back onto all fours. In fact, everyone come back to all fours and just push back towards child's pose or puppy pose. Up here, taking your head down to the mat. And then we're going to go on the other side. So if you were doing the lunge, we just need to switch legs. If you're doing pigeon, you need to switch legs also. So just setting yourself up. Easing that back leg away long, just finding your lift here, noticing whether you can be unsupported here or not, whether the bolster would be better off underneath your lifted hip. Perhaps for me it would have been better on that side, yeah, I think so. And then taking your version, so taking a few breaths upright, and then if you want to extend it a bit more, you can come down to forearms. So the back leg is stretched away, the toes are untucked. And then for those of us who are in the lunge position, let me just get into that. Really think about hugging the inner thighs together, taking the arms up, reaching up nice and tall with the ball overhead, fingertips are stretching towards the ceiling. And then slowly we're all going to come down and meet in all fours once more in that neutral tabletop position. And we're going to tuck our toes, really lining ourselves up over our wrists, which we've warmed up. We're going to hover those knees again. So send the hips high. We're looking down between the thumbs. We're really igniting those thigh muscles. Push, 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 push. And softly lower down, nice and slowly. And take your version of child's pose. What would be nice here for everybody, if you're not doing child's pose and you're up in puppy, perhaps you could arrange your bolster so it's in front of you, like when we were doing the supported cobra. Or if you're doing normal child's pose. And what we're going to do is rest our elbows on the bolster. So in either position, either your bum's back on your heels like so, or you're up on all fours like this. We're going to bring the hands together in prayer and bring them over our heads. And then actively imagine that we are pushing the bolster away. So there's activity in our elbows. Our arms are parallel, they're very close to our ears, and we're getting a lovely stretch into the triceps. So send the hips high if you're in puppy pose. Send the hips back if you're in child's pose. Really feel the length in the front body, stretching the triceps. Press those palms together. Let's get a little bit of heat in the shoulders. We can create a little tension, then we've got even more to let go. And then slowly, slowly, slowly coming out of this posture. And wherever you are, just coming to your version of rest here. So if you're in puppy pose, just resting your head on the bolster. If you're in child's pose, just pushing all the way back, and hands can either meet the feet or they can be long and passive, up to you. So find and connect with your breath. Noticing how you're feeling. Are you still belly breathing? How about that Ujjayi breath? Is that still going? Can you get that warming you up? So this is the reason we breathe through our nose in yoga. We try and contain all the energy that we're creating, not letting it go before it's time. And slowly, slowly, slowly coming off the bolster now. And just coming to a seated position with both knees facing towards the right. Probably easier if we all do the same thing. So have your legs so that they're not touching each other. You might need to, one leg might need to be forward, one leg might need to be back. If this isn't available to you, just sit with both legs out in front of you. But if we can get the knees facing the same way, this is good because we have one leg in external rotation and one leg in internal rotation. Always good to challenge the brain with bits of the body doing opposite things. And then lining up your bolster so it's right next to your right hip, so everything's heading right. We're going to lift and lengthen. We're going to turn to look at the bolster, so we've got this lovely twist in the thoracic spine. And then we're just going to slide down and lay on the bolster. Just ease yourself down, putting your face down on the bolster here. Let go of any tension in the feet, in the jaw, the shoulders. Just do a quick body scan and see if you are actually holding tension where there's no need for there to be any. Just noticing your breath while you're laying on your side here. This is a lot more difficult if you've got your legs outstretched, I must admit. So make yourselves comfortable if that is the situation. Basically, we're just trying to get a side bend or a twist into the thoracic spine. And whichever side of the face you're laying on, presumably you're on your right side, very, very gently, let's explore what it feels like. If we try and turn to the left, you might find that you haven't got nearly so much movement, but we're going to lay on that side anyway if we can. If it's too much, come onto your forehead or your chin, or use your hands to prop your head. And from here, with your left hand, just reach diagonally out to the left-hand corner of your mat. Be really, really active in that arm. Reach away, reach away, reach away. And then release. Hands come in towards the body, and very slowly we're going to turn the face back. And we're going to lift ourselves up. Come to center. And let's just take a moment here to windscreen wiper the knees here from side to side, just noticing how that feels. And we're going to move the bolster to the other hip. This time I'm going to do it with my legs straight to see what difficulties we encounter when we're doing it this way. In fact, you might need to roll onto your left hip to achieve this. So everybody else, knees are heading left. We're going to turn to face the bolster, and then we're going to slide our bodies down. So if you're laying with both legs out front, we're just letting both feet flop out towards the left-hand side. We're resting on the left hip. So now we're laying on the left-hand side of our face. Check in with your breath. And take a moment to just see if you're aware of your heartbeat while you're laying on the left side of your body. Perhaps you're aware of the thud, thud, thud. Just tuning into what's going on in your body right now. See if you can release any tension, perhaps in your feet, ankles, knees, hips, shoulders, jaw, and your hands and fingers. And then very slowly move and turn our faces to the other side. Actually, this is a lot more difficult if you've got your legs straight. So maybe using your hands to make yourself comfortable. And let's just explore what happens when we put our head on the other side here. Obviously, this isn't an endurance, so if it's not comfortable, don't stay here. We're trying to relax before bedtime. And then slowly bringing the head round to centre, bringing the hands in towards the body. Let's just gently push up until we're upright. So taking a moment here, and then getting the bolster and sliding it underneath your knees here, and bringing the soles of the feet together. So this is very, very passive. Hopefully this won't cause anyone any grief. If it does, just rearrange your body until it feels better. But what we're looking for here is the upright spine, the soles of the feet together, and what we're actually doing here is opening our hips. So we're just sitting with intention here with the hips open. See if you can just let go. So maybe you need to have a fidget on your sitting bones so that you are sitting nice and upright. Again, bring some intention to your posture. Tuning into the breath, noticing if you're starting to get a little bit woolly around the edges. Then bring both hands to your ankles. So we're still long in the spine, we're almost pulling ourselves forward here. Sending the hips back, moving the crown of the head beyond our toes. We're not actually, we're just thinking that we're doing that. That's the intention. So we've got lots of length in the spine, tucking the chin just a little bit, keeping that length in the cervical spine. And then bringing the thumbs to the inner arches of the feet. Let's just have a little bit of a squeeze and a rolling round there, just massaging into the arches of the feet, maybe into the balls of the feet, maybe into the toes. Depends whether you've been on your feet all day or not. Maybe your feet are cold, maybe they're very warm. Just seeing what's there today, what might feel nice. Perhaps you don't want to touch them at all, in which case just hold your ankles and concentrate on your posture and your breath. If you think about all the little bones and the tendons and the muscles that make up your feet, it's no wonder that sometimes they get a bit snarled up. So it's nice just to do a little bit of manual manipulation to notice if there are any niggles building in there. So in yoga, we're seeking to listen to our body so we can hear it while it's still whispering before it becomes a shout. So it's doing things like this where you might suddenly find a tender point and think, oh, what's all that about? And you can perhaps give a little bit of extra care and attention to that area. So just coming to stillness with the feet now, either with your thumbs in the arches or just gently resting on the ankles. Or maybe you prefer to just sit fairly passively with your elbows on your knees. Entirely up to you, but just try and have the visualization of your spine being long rather than just being slumped here. We'll do some slumping in a minute. I know we all want to slump, but just creating some space in the spine at the moment. Just take one ear to the shoulder and then the other, noticing how this feels. And then coming to centre, and let's look all the way over to the right. Really drop the shoulders here, be aware of their heaviness. And then coming through centre and all the way over to the left. Noticing the subtle differences between the two. And back to centre again. And take your hands behind your bum. Fingertips can be whichever way around you want. You choose. But leaning back slightly, what I want you to do is squeeze your shoulder blades together as actively as you can. So you're really pinching the shoulder blades together again. So we're creating loads of tension here so that we can open in the front body, really open the pec muscles up here. You know, when we're sitting slumped at a desk all day, we need to open that up. So this is a really good antidote for that. Really squeeze, squeeze, squeeze those shoulders together. And then release and come forwards. And this time bring your hands, clasp your hands, and imagine you're hugging a tree as you just sink down. So you can take a good old slumped position here, really slump down. Drop the shoulder blades. And then slowly come back up again. We're going to go once more to the back. Fingertips come behind. Really raise yourself up, so you're lifting yourself long in the spine, and then squeeze those shoulder blades together. Maybe you bend into the elbows so that you can sort of lean back into them, but really squeezing the shoulders together. Feel that lovely opening in the front body. Maybe tucking the chin just a little bit. And then slowly coming forward. Now this time when you clasp your hands, you'll notice you've got a favourite way to do it. I want the other little finger to be at the bottom this time. Oh, it's all wrong, it's all wrong. Just try it and you'll realise how we always just choose a favourite. So we're going with least favourite little finger at the bottom. Let's stretch our arms away here and then round into the spine here. Really rounding, you can feel the stretch all the way down into the sacrum, all the way from the shoulder blades, rounded in the spine, really kind of ironing out the notches if you like. And then slowly let's come back up through centre and release those hands. Doesn't it feel weird when we put things around the wrong way? It's a bit like if you cross your arms. If you do it the wrong way, it's just not right. It's just not right at all, most distracting. So sitting nice and tall here, just taking whatever movements feel nice, slowly helping the knees to come back to centre here. And we are going to bring ourselves down onto the mat. Hurrah! Not quite blanket time, but we're getting closer, getting closer. Right, what we're going to do now is a version of fish pose, which is another beautiful shoulder opener. So if you're using a bolster or hopefully a couple of pillows like I am, perch your bum right on the very end so your tailbone is supported. But when you lay down on the length of it, your head is not supported. You can support it with something else. If you've got a ponytail or a stupid thing in your hair like I have, you might need to move it. But what we want is for the arms to come away from the body at about 45 degrees, and you will feel gravity just peeling the shoulders down, which is what we want. We want this opening in the front body here. Just take a moment to set your pelvis up nicely. So feet can be flat on the mat here, knees bent. So you can either have your knees propped in against each other, or if you're proper hardcore and you've got no issues in your lower back, you can send one leg away long and the other leg away long. But if you've got outstretched legs, you've got to have your toes pointed and everything zipped together. So no passive falling apart here. It's got to be very intentional. And just everybody, whatever position you're in, I think personally it's nicer to be supported with your knees bent. Just have a moment of squeezing the shoulder blades together here. And then just relax and let them be heavy. And just close your eyes here. Bring your attention to what you're aware of in this lovely supported version of fish pose. Maybe you've got your head supported, maybe you haven't. You might want to try it without your head being supported. This stretches in a way that we don't often stretch, but don't do it if you've got any neck issues, but it stretches the front of your throat. So basically all you do is settle the back of your skull onto the ground and you get this glorious stretch through your throat whilst your shoulders are externally rotated. So taking your version, nothing should feel like an endurance, it should feel lovely and comfortable and something that feels quite nice and you could stay here for a while. So tune back in with your breath, notice how you're breathing, especially if you've got the back of your head on the ground rather than being supported. You'll notice I've become a bit nasal in my talking as I'm laying like this. And bring your awareness back to your belly breath. Is your belly still soft? Are you still aware of the rise and fall? And how about breathing into the ribs now? Where the ribs are meeting the support of the back body, are you aware of the muscles there? Perhaps you're aware of actually being lifted up and down with every breath here. So it's just noticing, you're just tuning into the subtle changes and fluctuations in energy, which muscles are switched on, which are lengthening, which are strengthening, which are being loaded. Actually, there aren't many muscles being loaded here right now. It's all quite passive. And then whatever version you're taking, slowly, carefully and very softly, I want you to just roll yourself off your bolster really carefully, and we're going to shift it around until it's in the middle of the mat but sideways on, and we are going to come into a supported bridge pose. So again, nice and yummy, just lay yourselves down on the mat, let your shoulders flatten out, and once you're there we want to move the bolster till it's under our sacrum, which is a bit difficult if you've got saggy old pillows like I've got. I bet you thought I was going to say saggy old bottom, but I wasn't. So putting the pillows underneath your sacrum here, just curling your pelvis up slightly, feet are flat on the floor, they're about hip width apart. Arms are about 45 degrees from the body, palms are upturned. And just noticing how we feel while we're in this inversion. Our hearts are very slightly higher than our heads. We've got our hips in extension, and it's all good. If you feel comfortable here, you can stay here by all means. If you want a little bit extra, and I know lots of you like this, just taking hold of the edge of your bolster or your pillows or your support. Let's just take one leg straight up in the air. Just straighten it. Let your sacrum settle. And if you feel settled and balanced there, let's take the other one up as well. And when we're there, release with the arms. Let the feet be passive, no need to flex or point or do anything with them. We just want gravity to do their bit, kind of holding them in that neutral position. Really tune in with the shoulders. Make sure they're spread and heavy. And the jaw, let the jaw be relaxed and the teeth parted. Tongue gently resting behind the top teeth. Let your brow be unfurrowed. Fingertips softly curling in towards the palms. And just notice the sensations that you're aware of in the body. Where are you feeling the most sensations? Perhaps you're aware of the effects of gravity
and the fact that you are, much of the energy is being concentrated into the shoulders that are taking most of the weight bearing at the moment. So just closing the eyes and really, hopefully you're enjoying having your legs up. It's such a restful posture. Also lovely to do against the wall, exactly like this, still with the bolster, but with your legs actually up the wall being supported. Very, very calming and restful. And then slowly and mindfully, let's bring one knee down and bring the foot to the mat. And then the other knee down and the foot to the mat. Just take a moment here. And then we're going to roll the bolster out from underneath us and slowly lower one vertebra at a time down until our spine is back on the mat. And just take a moment here to let the spine settle. It's been supported for a few minutes. Take your feet, let your feet feel for the edges of your mat, and let's just windscreen wipe the knees from one side to the other, nice and slowly. And the next time we come over towards the left, we're going to bump the hips over towards the right. And as we lay the knees down, we're going to prop the left ankle on top of the right thigh, just to let gravity assist this. That might be too much, it might be more than you want at this time of night. Give it a go. If it's not for you, just go to passively laying with the knees kind of heading in the left hand side. Maybe you want to lift and turn the head towards the right. Maybe you're beyond caring now and you just want to lay here with the blanket, that's fine. Slowly bring the head and neck back to centre. Let's unwind the feet, bump the hips back to the middle. And this time let's bump the hips over to the left. Take the knees over towards the right, and if you want to, take the right heel on top of the left thigh and just let gravity pull that down. So both shoulders are flat on the mat here, they're squashed and spread. Maybe you want to lift and turn the head to face the left. Slowly bringing the head back to centre, unhooking that right ankle, bringing both knees up to centre. Bring one knee towards the chest and then the other. Let's take the knees and the feet really wide, really, really wide. So imagine that you're on a horse upside down. Then bring your hands in between your knees and grab the outsides of your feet. So now we're trying to get our knees into our armpits. And we're going to take a little roll from side to side in happy baby. So maybe you're aware of your ribs digging into parts of you. So just taking a little roll here, and then let's take one foot at a time. So kind of walk them. And then coming to stillness and crossing the ankles, gently going to roll up. Maybe you'll take a couple of times to do this. Gently rolling up to seated. Got one more thing to do before we have blanket time. We're not going to be here for long, so you don't need to sit however you want that makes you comfortable. We're just going to do a little bit of Nadi Shodhana. I'm going to sit on my block. This is the alternate nostril breathing, but it's specifically for nighttime because, as I've told you before, those of you who practice regularly with me, at any one time we only have one nostril dominant,
And our fight and flight nostril for our decision making, our doing, and all the rest of it is our right nostril. And the cooler side of things, the feminine side of things, and the rest and digest is our left nostril. So we are going to activate now our left nostril just to really give our mind, body, and parasympathetic nervous system the idea that we're starting to bring everything right down. So for this, we use our right thumb and our right ring finger. So the index finger and middle finger come into the middle of the palm, and just bring the thumb up to the right nostril. Take your left hand to your left knee. You can take a mudra if you want. You can place your finger and thumb together. If not, just rest your hand there. And gently shut your eyes and just listen to the instructions. So we're going to block the right nostril and inhale left. Block left, exhale right. Block right, 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 inhale left. Block left, exhale right. So continuing a few rounds of your own while I continue to explain. So we're only inhaling through the left. We're only exhaling through the right. So we're trying to get the left nostril dominant. With every inhale and exhale, try and tune into that three-part yogic breath. So with the inhale, we're aware of the breath and how it affects the belly, and then the ribs, and then the upper chest, and then on the exhale, it empties from the upper chest, the ribs, and then the belly. So lots of stuff to think about there. And while you're patting your head and rubbing your tummy whilst doing that at the same time, you might want to introduce some ujjayi breath too. But I do want you to be rested, so maybe not. So just a couple more on the next time that you have exhaled through your right. Let's just lower the right hand. Keeping the eyes closed, let your breath find its natural rhythm now. Notice how you are breathing and notice if the left nostril has become dominant. Sometimes it's quite difficult to tell. And also really difficult if you've got a cold, so sorry about that. And very slowly and mindfully now, making your way down for Shavasana. So we've done everything we can to bring the energy down. So get warm, get comfortable, get your blankets, socks, whatever you need. If you want to use your bolster, Linda, do not lay on your bolster tonight. Be comfortable, be warm. Push that bolster far, far, far away. And just come, let your limbs be heavy. If you're laying in traditional Shavasana, legs are outstretched, ankles are rolled softly out to the sides, spine is flattened into the mat, shoulders are flattened into the mat, palms are upturned. Take a little wriggle on your hips, your sacrum from side to side. Just really ease down into the mat. And bring your attention once more to within. Tune in as you turn the attention inwards. So notice how you're feeling now as the practice is drawing to an end. Notice how your breathing is. If you have managed to maintain Ujjayi breath throughout the practice, do let me know and I'll send you a little medal. If you are still doing it now, let it go, let your body find its own natural rhythm and breath. And then just thinking about the sensations that are present in the body now. Notice if you're aware of the prana or the energy flowing through the body. I'm hoping that all of you is feeling quite heavy and lethargic now, every part of your body. We're just going to have a couple of minutes in silence for you just to contemplate your practice, for your body to assimilate the practice. So just starting to deepen your breath a little and bringing a little movement to your fingers and toes, running your fingertips over your thumbs, maybe circling into ankles and wrists, taking a stretch if you want to, and then slowly bringing one foot in close to the body, then the other. One knee onto the chest and then the other. Just taking a moment here, perhaps taking a little rock and roll. And then outstretching your right arm. Just come to rest on your right hand side using your arm as a pillow. Just going to let the blood pressure equalise here. Slowly and mindfully bringing yourself up to seated. So once we're here, we're not going to stay here for very long, so don't worry about all your paraphernalia. Softly closing the eyes and joining the hands at Anjali Mudras, heart center, and bowing our heads here just for a moment to acknowledge the time that we had spent together and set aside for our own well-being, to practice yoga, to unite mind, body and breath. And I really hope that you've caught yourselves a couple of times in the practice tonight, appreciating just how amazing your body is. Namaste.